Welcome to GCA Unmuted, the podcast where we share the stories and strategies that show how Georgia Cyber Academy makes online learning work. Kindergarten through second grade is where it all begins. Letters, numbers, friendships, routines. But how do you launch a student's entire educational journey in a virtual world? That's what we're exploring today. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Felicia Lowman Sikes, a primary grades teacher here at GCA who works with our youngest learners, helping them build confidence, connection, and core skills, all in a virtual setting. We'll talk about how Felicia brings early learning to life online, how she partners with families, and what it really takes to help young students thrive at the very start of their academic journey. Felicia, thanks for coming on. And can you share a story that shows what it's like to help a kindergartner, first or second grader, launch into a virtual learning for the first time? So tell me a story about what it's like to help this kindergartner, first or second grader, because that's what primary grade bands are. And I believe you teach kindergarten, so you can share.
Yeah.
You can share what's a story that shows like, hey, this is how it helps launch them into virtual learning for the first time.
Well, we have a couple of different groups. We either have kiddos who have older siblings at GCA, excuse me, or we have students who are coming in fresh. This is their first school experience. So we have a pretty diverse skill set, I guess you could say, for our students who have older siblings, and they have learning coaches who know the ins and outs of all of our different platforms. Those kids can sort of hit the ground running, and they pick up on content and they pick up on class structure really fast. If we have people coming in and this is their first experience with GCA, not only are we teaching them our standards and hoping that they develop a love of learning, but we're also guiding them as they work through the different platforms that we have. We're helping them connect with the different people we have here, such as attendance specialists or our family engagement liaisons. But more than anything, when they come in, whether or not they have a background in navigating those platforms, we want our babies to have fun. And we want them to know, first of all, that they're loved and that they're appreciated. And we want our families to know that too. So from the very first day, at least in my class, we are up, we're moving, we're singing, we're dancing. We're very active and very involved. I try at least once a day to let everyone come on the mic, to answer questions, to have some sort of engagement. We can't all turn our microphones on at once because it makes this wretched feedback sound. So we have to navigate that. But the entire time we're trying to engage our kiddos, we're trying to engage their grown-ups also. And we're trying to support and help so that they know where to click, they know what to look for, they know what time they need to be in a certain spot. So there are lots of moving parts to it. But when they make it through like day 2 or day 3 and they realize, oh, okay, we have very structured schedule, lots of routine, even within certain class periods. Like my kiddos will know when they come to math, we're going to do our calendar, and we're going to sing our days of the week and our months of the year, and we're going to do our hundreds chart, and we're going to do a thinking problem at a certain time. So they learn very quickly the structure and the routine of everything. It's a lot like how I would teach in brick and mortar. So if you would imagine, I don't know if you've ever been to a kindergarten classroom, but in brick and mortar, I would have centers and stations with different things that they would work on throughout the day. And I would have a great big carpet with a little chair, or I would sit down with them. And there were some times when we would be all together and we would do something. And then there would be other times when I would pull some kids over to a table with me, or I would have them over in a corner with our little library section and they would do independent reading. We can manage a lot of that here at GCA also with the platform that we use with breakout rooms. We also, I'll mention in primary, we have paraprofessionals which is amazing. So I have someone who's with me, I would say maybe 75% of the day. So I'm able to pull a small group of kids. I can have her pull a small group of kids. We can have some kiddos working independently. And once they all see the structure and once they know what the routine is going to be like, it's really pretty easy. I know this light. Hold on. I'm going to pull this down so it doesn't glare.
Yeah, you're fine. That's incredible. So you have these parapros helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
You have these different populations, right? You said you have a
Yeah.
population of students that have siblings and they kind of
Mm-hmm.
already understand like what it's like being an online student. And then you have these
Yes.
brand new students who aren't just learning curriculum, but they're learning how in the world do I navigate a computer and technology and these certain things. So I am curious, what has helped those students, those challenges, uh, those families uh, get through those technology challenges? Because I imagine people that are listening right now that are nervous
Mm-hmm.
of like, oh my gosh, how do I put my kindergartner in an online program with this challenge of
Exactly.
like, how do I navigate or these tech issues? Did the FELs, like you said, the family engagement liaisons, are they a good partner with that? Like, what have you seen personally for getting them through that challenge of, man, how do I navigate Canvas? How do I make sure I have all my logins? Those sorts of things.
Well, the FELs number one are great for that. They do like a strong start program, so they meet with the grown-ups, the learning coaches. And I'll mention too, we have learning coaches who aren't just parents. We might have aunts or neighbors or grandparents or whoever is serving as the learning coach. So the FEL is a great point of contact for that and for that strong start program. For the rest of those things, like once they're in class with me, I can see their face. And then on another screen, I can see their screens. So I'm able to see what they're clicking on. I'm able to direct and give maybe some advice on, okay, let's try this. Like, for instance, today we had a student who typically, like, we've not had any trouble whatsoever technology wise. And for some reason today, her camera just would not work. And I was able to say, hey, I knew we needed to work with her browser settings and the permissions in her Chrome browser, but I'm teaching. So I asked my para, would you mind to pull her down to a breakout room really quick and walk mom through allowing those settings on her browser? And that took maybe like 2.5, 3 minutes tops. And then she's back in the main room with us learning. When we're at the beginning of the school year, and we're logging into Canvas for the first time, or we have Clever, which is sort of like a landing page for all of the different apps that we use and the different learning programs. I'm very deliberate about building time into those days at the beginning of the school year. And again, when we get new students around winter break, we'll have an influx of parents who maybe their student hasn't had the best brick and mortar experience. So they want to try us. And we'll backtrack a little bit. We build that time in so they know they're going to have support in logging in and finding something. I'll show my screen. I'll say, watch this, and I'll show them how to find something. And then I'll say, okay, now I'm going to watch your screens and I'm going to walk you through it. So I'll tell them what to click on and what to open. And if they're having trouble, I'll say, okay, put your mouse here, scroll down. Do you see that button? Click right there. And once we've done that a few times, kids, even 5 and 6 year olds, they are so brilliant. They can pick up on things so quickly. And they're able to see with that repetition, and it's stuff we do every day. They're able to see, okay, I need to go to Clever. I'm going to click on this program. I'm going to click on that program. We need a class code for this. Here it is. I'm write it down, put it in your house, but I'll put it in the chat box. I'll put it in our class newsletter. So there are times built in when we deliberately teach not only the kids, but their families how to navigate that. So it's not just a jump in, go to class. It's like a gradual release.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time September, October rolls around, even the adults aren't having to navigate. The kids will know. If I
Sure.
say, okay, let's go to iReady and open math, they're like, click, 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 boop, there they go.
That's awesome. That's great that you
Yeah.
build that in and they're able to catch on really quickly. So, mo moving on more to like the kind of overarching ideas of goal setting. From your
Mhm.
experience, what would you say is the most important goals when you're working with this primary grades population virtually,
Oh,
like the K to 12? Like, what do you think are the most important goals?
for my students, I want them, what do, for
Yeah.
students? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. For students, the goal, I want them to one, love learning. I
Mm,
want them to want to learn. I want them, we have a big literacy focus in primary, and we have some extra time built in during the day for extra reading instruction and extra literacy instruction. But beyond just teaching them how to read, I want them to enjoy reading. I want them to enjoy what they're learning. I want them to be curious. I want them to be able to ask questions, and I want them to be able to explain their thinking. So we do a lot of that. I want them to be able to look at something and not only tell me the answer, but tell me why that's the answer and how they knew that was the answer. We're not just looking at surface level stuff. The goal for me, for my kiddos, and I know a lot of my primary colleagues, our goal is more than just them being able to read something in front of them or being able to like rattle off some math facts. We want them to be able to understand why, to explain why, and to be curious and to want to dig deeper and learn more. Um, I don't know if people understand that necessarily about virtual education. And I'll have people ask me, oh, well, how? And if they say, what do you do? And I tell them I work with gifted kindergartners online from my home. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute. How do you do that? Just blows their mind immediately. And I tell them, well, in my office, it looks like I'm piloting a spaceship. But if you listen, because I have all these monitors and screens, but if you listen, it's kindergarten. It's the same thing that you would hear me doing in a classroom. It's the same type of curiosity. We have the same goals here that we would have anywhere else. And I also want to add, you know, Halt and I like to talk and I'll like take different detours and bypasses. I feel like when I first started, I wondered if I would be able to build connections with kids like I did when I taught in brick and mortar. And I feel honestly like I have connected more with some families here than I ever did with brick and mortar. And I think that's because we are in each other's homes all day, 5 days a week. And being able to build those relationships with students and build those relationships with their families is incredible. I have students that I taught here in kindergarten who are now in the elementary grade bands, and they will still send me a text message. Or I had some families text me first day of school pictures of their third and fourth graders or their
Oh,
first grader. So it's virtual school is not just plop your kid down in front of the computer and that's it. This truly is a place where we all love and care for your kids, and we all want your kids to be curious. We want your kids to learn, and we want your kids to love learning.
yeah, that's awesome. Loving learning. So how do you do that? You just said like, the what is very, so how do you day to day keep these students focused or engaged when they're young, they're full of energy, right? You're doing
They are.
online. What's like something like specific like strategies or things that you do to keep them focused, to keep them engaged?
We use a lot of multisensory learning. So I'll use, like, for instance, if we're talking about letter sounds, I will have the kiddos, we use sign language. I will have them use some little motion to go with something. I personally, I maybe I'm just a little crazy. That's probably it. But I come up with these wacky songs for things. So I made up a song about nouns. The kids learned that the other day. and they
Nice.
get to like they get to make dog ears and they jump like a frog and all kinds of stuff. Next week, we're going to learn about main topic for informational text. And I have a song. We learn about how the main topic is like a pizza and the key details are like the little toppings. And then we also talk about your main topic is the tabletop and the key details are the legs. So I made up a song about main topic and key details and we danced to that. Um, just little things like you may have noticed I have a thing in my hand. I'm very fidgety. I cannot sit still. And if if I've been teaching for 150 years and I can't sit still, these kiddos who are 5 and 6 years old, they can't sit still either. And this is what we tell our parents and our grandparents, like it's okay for them to move around. They don't need to sit down all day. They can stand up, they can wiggle, they can sit, they can bounce. Um, we will try to build in as much movement as we can just to keep their little brains engaged. I don't know if they do that in upper grades, but with primary, you have to have multisensory. We've,
Sure.
was it yesterday, maybe? Sometime this week, we had science and we've been learning about sorting. I told them, okay, take a minute, go outside and see if you can find leaves. And if it's raining and you can't go outside, or if you just can't go out right now, we're going to make our own leaves. So some of the kids left, they went and grabbed leaves. I got some paper, I drew, cut out. We talked about proper like use of scissors. We're developing fine motor skills. But they're out like, okay, let me get our leaves. They come back in, we sort. We put them in groups different ways. Here's a group big and little. Here's a group based on color. Here's a group based on they're pointy, they're not pointy. Then we took our leaves and we glued them to paper and we drew on them and gave them legs and we made them insect colonies because we had talked about the letter I that earlier that day. And we know that I says it. So we made it insects and we use our sign language. It insects out of the leaves that we sorted. So they're up, they're moving, they're doing, they're not sitting the entire time. So
Right. No, that's fantastic. So these tools, these different strategies you're using,
mhm,
a lot of movement, a lot of music, a lot of
yes,
singing, making sure,
yes,
they're staying engaged, but they're also
yes,
learning, you're
yes.
you're not just sitting around watching Bluey or something the whole time.
Yeah, no,
Um, so those are the different strategies, tools you're using for these young learners. What are
definitely.
you doing to build because you mentioned like you have kind of developed relationships with families and
Mhm.
parents. How did you do that? How are you building, like what are you doing to build strong partnerships with these learning coaches or these parents with your students?
I feel like with primary, typically we have learning coaches and parents who want to be involved and they need to be involved a little more versus a learning coach who has an older student just because these little people need someone there to kind of guide them. But I think that our parents are able to see like we ask things, we make note of things, we try to tie in like things that we see going on in their life. Like one year we had a kiddo who, if he was feeling kind of frustrated or kind of, we noticed that he would have his dog come over. And this dog was like the most amazing, crazy little dog. And I would like, hey, what's your dog's name? And then I would every now and then say, hey, call for the dog and the dog would come over. So it's little things like that.
Right.
It's saying, to a parent when if their kiddo is struggling with something or if because in kindergarten, goodness, they like when they can see themselves on camera for the first time and they'll do some things that they probably wouldn't have done otherwise. It happens every single year. And to have conversations with parents and just walk them through, it's okay. It's okay. Um, or to have them say, they're just not getting this. and what can I do to help them? I think when they see that we genuinely care, that helps build those connections. I also, just overall, we try to be very deliberate in our communication. So I will send out weekly newsletters. I'll make a video if there's something new coming up that I'm afraid like they haven't seen this before. I'll do a video tutorial in Canvas Studio and I'll save the video and send it out with the newsletter. I will do things called learning coach chats where at the end of the day, I'll turn the cameras off, but we'll stay online and we'll tell the kids, all right, go play, go play. And then in about 5 minutes, I'll turn the cameras back on. The parents can come over. And then we talk about, okay, this is what we have coming up. What questions do you have? How can we support you? I think a lot of times when parents and learning coaches hear that somebody else has the same question, they feel less alone. I think sometimes we have parents who might think something, but they're a little afraid to ask. So those learning coach chats are a really great time to build connections, not just with myself and the families, but also with, families learning and growing together in the same class.
No, I love that. The partnering, you're communicating, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like one of the key things is paying attention to the details. You're
Oh,
paying
yeah,
attention to the
absolutely.
details of your students, making sure, seeing
Mm-hmm.
that they care. So, what do you think is something that you've learned teaching that would help other teachers, regardless if they're an online teacher or a brick and mortar teacher, just kind of
Yeah.
high level, like what could you think you would say like something that you've learned that would help other teachers, would you say?
Okay, hands down, no question. The most important thing. And just to give you some background, I've taught kindergarten, sixth, seventh, eighth grade. I was an administrator and school counselor at the high school level. And then I've been a division level administrator. And I was like, I'm done with that. Give me my babies. So I came back to the classroom. So I've got this different type of perspective. I
Yes.
have the teacher perspective, but then I can wear different hats. It does not matter if you're in brick and mortar or you're virtual. It does not matter if you're teaching high school seniors or kindergarten babies. Those kids need to know that you love them. The good parts, the times when they don't make the best choices, they need to know that you love them. You cannot teach a kid unless they trust you and believe that, you know what, she loves me. He loves me. And he loves me or she loves me. They love me even when, fill in the blank. They love me even when.
Sure.
Once you have that, once they know that you're on their team, then you can teach them.
Mm,
You have to have that sense of connection and security before you can teach content.
sure. No,
You
that
have
sounds
to.
like, yeah. I mean, that sounds similar to that cliche that is so true about kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, which is
Mm-hmm.
just it's true. So that's why it's a cliche, but it's just
And
so
it's
true.
and some teachers, and it doesn't matter where you're teaching, it might require a different strategy to get to different kids.
Mm,
What I use to connect with one kid in my class might not work with another.
sure.
And I feel like, well, I bet a bunch of teachers feel this way. I feel like I have to be able to shape shift a little bit into what I think is going to connect with them. And the way I connect with my little kids, if I ever went back to high school or teaching middle school, I would not approach instruction and approach building relationships the same way. It would be a little bit different. But sometimes you have to be a little goofy or a little silly or really honest. I think especially with your kids as they get a little older, they want to know that you're a human and that you aren't perfect. But they have to know that you care about them. They have to.
Absolutely. So, what do you think makes GCA's approach to early learning work so well in your opinion? Like, what about GCA's approach is beneficial to early learning?
Well, one, and this is honest to goodness, I've told you, like, I've done 100 different things in education. Our administrative team in primary are top tier.
Mhm.
They, not a single one of our primary administrators has an ego. And there are, if there are other teachers listening to this, they'll know some administrators are in it for the ego. They're in it for, you know, what can I do, or how can I look to my community? Our administrators in primary are absolutely focused on how can we help these kids grow. Not a single one of them is in it for themselves, for personal recognition or personal gain. So being a teacher and working for a primary leadership team that's that caring and honestly that focused on families is refreshing.
Oh
This is
yeah.
my 5th year at GCA, and I am still waiting for that moment. I haven't had that. You know, you go and you have a new job and everything's great for a little while, but then you have this moment, like, I'm seeing how things really are.
Sure.
5 years, and it's still, I haven't had that moment. I feel like we focus on making sure our students learn. We want them to be good readers. We want them to be proficient little mathematicians. We want them to be curious. And the things that we do and the things that are guided from administrators down in that primary division, like every single thing we do, we're constantly thinking, okay, how can we do this to better help our students learn? If there are teachers out there listening to this and they're not happy in their brick and mortar school, if you're like, oh, we just don't have any guidance, or we don't have a true like focus on literacy, or we don't have this or that, like, come check us out. it's it's I don't really want to say it's like it's magical, but it sort of is. It
Sure.
is. And if we see from year to year, like, okay, we did this really well last year, let's continue it. Let's build on it. We don't have a lot of, we're going to try this for a year and then dump it and try something new for a year and then dump that. We're going to see what works and we're going to build on it and expand it. If something doesn't work, then let's back up and retool. There's a lot of common sense at GCA, especially in primary. Like, I can't speak for other teachers and other departments, but a lot of common sense decisions, a lot of kid focused decisions, and exceptional support.
Yeah, it sounds like a leadership team makes all the difference.
They're
Can make or break it.
amazing. They are
So,
amazing.
if you think pretty high level here, are there things that you've seen here at GCA that works that you think could work in other schools? Like if you're thinking like just like high level leader systems things that either other virtual schools or traditional schools could adopt, and what would you say those things are?
And I think even to another degree, like not only just other schools, but other states.
Mhm.
Like there are other states out there who do not have programs like this. And I think about the kids that could benefit from having just quality instruction, amazing teachers. We're focused on standards, but we're also focused on connecting with your family. I think that's one thing that could go over into brick and mortar too, like just the connection and the support. Like, could you imagine if brick and mortar schools had family engagement liaisons who could go out into the community or make contact and be like, hey, how are you? How can I help you? Or if brick and mortar schools, oh, here's another thing. Oh my goodness. The different field trips that they put together and the community partnerships and Miss Price and how she puts together all of those outings across the state. Like, can you imagine if a brick and mortar division or even other states, if other places did that? Our kids, if they pull up that community events calendar, there are tons of things that they can do, even outside of their classes with us. Like yesterday, I had a kiddo say, I've got to log off 20 minutes early because I'm going on this trip to do this. And they're all school sponsored. They get to meet kids from of other parts of the state, other places in their community. The model that we have for not only providing exceptional education, yes, we're following those state standards. Yes, we're teaching and we're going beyond that. But just the support for families, giving families a choice and giving them that option of, hey, I would like to have my kid learn at home. I still want them to have this great education that they would get at a brick and mortar school, but I want them to be able to do it here. That, I just feel like that type of peace of mind is priceless.
Sure, it's not just plop them in front of the computer and go for it. So what,
Yeah,
you know? But
yeah.
how about this? I think that I think these would be fighting words for you, but what would you say to somebody
Uh-oh.
who's like, virtual school, it can't work for young kids? What would you say
Oh,
to
no,
somebody
no, no,
like
no, no.
that?
Hey, listen. And I would have my finger like this too. You're like, whoa, now. Hold up.
They get the
I have
finger.
recordings. If they honestly, if someone said, oh, that can't work, there's no way that can work, I would invite them to my class.
I
I would
love
say, here's a link, come join us. Or here is a recording, take a look. Take a look. If you don't think it works, come watch.
I love that. That's great.
I would say,
Yeah.
come visit,
You
come
are
visit,
you are putting your money where your mouth is with
come to my room. Listen, if you don't think it works, come on.
that. And
Probably be like, this lady made up a crazy song in the shower about nouns, man. She's
yes, yes. So, to end, you need to tell us because I know that you are teaching, but I also know that you are learning. So, what would you say is the biggest lesson or one of the biggest lessons you've learned about teaching uh, these early learners in a virtual
oh
environment?
gosh.
What would you say?
Oh, you always have to be on your toes because you never know. You never know what they're going to say or do. They, and I guess it's not a like learn from a mistake thing. It's not that, but it's every single day. You never know what is going to come out of their mouth. You never know. And there's at least one time every day when one of them absolutely cracks me up for something that they've done or said, or
Yep.
they just expect the unexpected.
Yes.
Be prepared for
Prepared.
anything.
Be prepared to be surprised. Well,
Yes.
here's today's big idea with intentional design, strong routines, and meaningful support from families. Even our youngest learners can launch confidently into school, even in a virtual setting. So thanks again.
especially
Yes, yes.
especially in a virtual setting.
Yes, and thanks again to Felicia for sharing your heart and your experience. And if this episode gave you something to think about, be sure to subscribe and join us next time on GCA Unmuted Voices of Virtual Education. Thanks, Felicia.
You're welcome.